Welcome to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. And Stewart is the managing partner of Asset Preservation Tax and Retirement Services. Stewart, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty darn good. How are you doing today?
I have to say the same, pretty darn good. And I know that you have been so extremely busy, because we were talking actually before the camera started that just the appointments have been amazing. So you're booking how many weeks out now?
Well, you know, it's funny. What we try to do is we try to set up a few appointments each week for new clients. But, you know, I can tell you that our schedule is crazy, but the reality, and I'm now working on the weekend, so Saturday appointments.
Wow.
We're seeing now, just because we have a lot of clients that will call in, they say, listen, we really want to talk with you, but you know, we only have 4 vacation days left this year, and I'm not going to spend it talking to you. So I get it. So no, we've opened up Saturdays, so long as it doesn't interfere with my son's basketball games.
Right.
I'm all about it. Like this upcoming weekend is pretty funny, because I'll be in our Scottsdale office running to my kid's basketball game and then going back and forth. So I'll be able to do it all and have a good time.
I love that. I love that. I know your son's going to love having you there. I mean, those are memories you can't get back.
Well, I apologize to the clients that come after the game if it turns out badly. So, you know, it could be a grumpy mess.
Oh my gosh. Well, Stewart, I love our time together, because obviously we've talked in the past about how important it is to have a true written comprehensive retirement plan, and how many people, you know, fail to do so because maybe they don't know where to go to get the information. And I know that they're really enjoying the show because of that. And it's just a staggering number when you think about it, how many people just haven't planned properly for retirement because they just didn't even know that they needed a plan. They're basically just grabbing statements from the mail, and they're probably coming into you and saying, this is my plan. Do you see that often?
All the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not just financial planning, it's their estate planning as well, where, you know, we have clients that, you know, have never set up any sort of estate plan, or, you know, they have this plan that they set up, you know, 15 years ago, and now their 48-year-old kids are going to go to the neighbors, you know, when they pass. So sometimes, you know, when you made your neighbors the guardians of your kids when they were young, well, that's different now that they're full grown, right? So sometimes these documents need to be updated and changed and so forth. So it's super important to be ahead of the curve there. When it comes to planning.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about estate planning, if you will, Stewart. What is the difference between a will and a trust?
Well, a will tells the courts what you want to have happen with your stuff. Right? I'm just kind of oversimplifying. But basically, let's just say that you have a house, some bank accounts, retirement plans, etc. Well, when you're gone, let's say Johnny is receiving everything, or you want Johnny to get the house and you want Sally, your daughter, to, you know, get the money. Well, when you're gone, what's going to happen is that Johnny's going to go to the realtor and say, hey, mom gave me the trust, or mom gave me the house. I want to sell it and it's mine. Well, the title company is going to say, okay, but how do we know it's yours, right? And that's the process of probate. Now, probate's a big, bad word, and I try not to make it that, even though it's a very expensive process. I don't know that it's an evil process, it's just really, really expensive and avoidable. So what the will does is basically force you in most situations to have to go through the process where the courts determine who gets the assets and whether that will's valid and so forth. Okay. What the trust does avoids that process entirely if it's properly executed and funded. So what the trust does is it helps you say who's in charge and where does the money go. And, you know, what are your end of life decisions? Do you want to be kept alive on life support if you're in a persistent vegetative state or irreversible coma? Okay. You know, what gifts do you want to give out? You may have a situation where it's a second marriage. You want to make sure your wife is taken care of, but once she's gone, you don't want it to go to her kids. You want it to go to your kids, you know? Right. And everybody's situation's different. Yeah. So it's important to have a plan. And we see that particularly with second marriages, where people have gotten together later in life and there's 2 distinct families. You just need to make sure that everything's in order. And that's one of the things we do in our office. Not only do we do financial planning, but we've had the same relationship with the same attorney for 15 years. Okay. And it's not a profit center for us. We do it at our cost. It's about $930, I think, right now to set up a full trust, a regular revocable living trust. And that same trust, if you go directly to the attorney, you can pay $1,500, $2,500. It's just not a profit center for us. The reason, and I jokingly tell people that I'm a man of leisure and I do not want to hang out with your kids in probate court.
Right.
So if we get everything in order ahead of time, we never have to deal with it again.
Okay. Stewart, how important is it to know who the beneficiaries are? Because I know we've talked about that in the past. Like, a lot of times people forget to make changes. So when someone passes away, it's like, oh my gosh, it's not even who they wanted the items to go to. Right.
Or, their grandkid who they're giving money to is, become this rotten, kid, and they want to cut him out or whatever. I mean, you see it all, right? Life changes.
Sure.
And sometimes, people show their true colors and you need to make changes, and hopefully it's not as bad as that, but it's really important to make sure that your wishes are observed properly. And we'll have clients, for example, that'll come in, they'll have a living trust, and they'll have the living trust as the beneficiary of like their IRAs, for example, or their 401ks. And they're, in their mind, they're doing the right thing because they were told everything goes in the trust. Well, just remember, if you go and put an IRA or a 401k directly into your trust, it dramatically limits the use of that money in the future in the way it's taxed. So if, for example, you give it to your trust rather than directly to the spouse can continue an IRA as their own. But if you give it to the trust to give to them, it could create some tax consequences that you're not prepared for. So when it comes to planning, you want to make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. So when you combine the estate planning, financial planning, tax planning, I think it allows you to really have a more efficient, program.
Okay. Stewart, we're about ready to open up the phone lines for the very first time to the viewing audience this week. Can you tell them what they can expect to receive by calling in?
Absolutely. So for the first 10 callers that call in today, what we're going to do is extend an offer to it's a second opinion service. And what we mean by that is we'll give you a second opinion on your entire plan. If you have an issue regarding your estate planning, your financial planning, your portfolio, for the first 10 callers, we'll give you a second opinion at no cost, no obligation, let you know what we think.
Stewart, thank you so much. To the viewing audience at home, the phone lines are now open and they're already lighting up, Stewart. The number to call is 833-652-7829. We know you have a lot of questions about retirement, and Stewart actually can help you retire comfortably and with peace of mind. Again, the phone lines are now open. I love to see them lighting up. Keep the calls coming. The number to call is 833-652-7829. We'll be right back after this very short commercial break.
What happens oftentimes is we'll run into clients or potential clients that have saved all this money, but they're 75, 80 years old. They've got this big pile of money, but they're not enjoying retirement because they're so worried about running out of money that they never actually get to enjoy their life's work. And so to me, it's really rewarding to be able to create a plan so that these people can have a great time in retirement, knowing that they're not going to run out, that they're going to be fine. I think it brings a smile to their face.
We get a lot of different people at a lot of different stages in their lives. And what we're able to do is, for some folks, it's able to tell them that you're on track. Keep doing what you're doing, and 15 years from now, you'll be retired and enjoying life the way you want it to be. For some people, it's people coming in and they're 3 to 5 years away from retirement, and you're able to tell them that, 5 years, 3 years, tomorrow, you're ready to go.
We are a complete shop. We handle estate planning, taxes, financial planning. We do a really in-depth cash flow analysis that is way more detailed than you'll see in the market.
Everything all in one spot, with the left hand always knowing what the right hand's doing. Because it's not just about the investments, but how's that going to affect your taxes? It's not where are you going to be 5 years from now, 15 years from now. And it's that back and forth full view of what the clients, not only today, but tomorrow and their legacy down the road is going to be, that really sets us apart.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Stewart Willis, and he's managing partner of Asset Preservation Tax and Retirement Services. Stewart, a great first segment that we have, and I love listening to all of the information that you provide because I find it so interesting, it's so informative, and it's so necessary with where we are currently. And speaking of necessary with where we are currently, I want to talk to you a little bit about taxes because I know everyone in the viewing audience has questions right now regarding taxes. In your opinion, Stewart, are they going to go up in the future?
Well, I mean, the reality is that we are in the most efficient tax window in history right now.
Okay.
Now, we don't know what's going to happen with the elections. We do know that there are two very distinct visions of what's good for America in terms of the two different candidates, right? Also, remember, we've had this massive stimulus program plus another one kind of on the way. The reality is that somebody's got to pay for that. Now, you know, one philosophy is that, hey, lower taxes, people will be more productive, etc. The other hand is, hey, let's tax everybody that makes over X amount of dollars.
Right.
Well, just remember the Trump tax cuts, and this is not a political statement, it's very, you know, it's just a math formula. The reality is that we only had 2 clients in our entire tax office that paid more taxes under the Trump tax cut. Most of our clients are retired or nearing retirement, 5-6 years out from retirement, and almost all of them, you know, invariably had lower taxes. So we're in this very efficient place right now from a tax perspective, and that's why we've seen the economy do so amazingly before COVID. So knowing that we have this efficient window right now, I think it's really important to take advantage of it while it lasts. Is it going to last a year or another 4 years? I don't know yet. We'll know in a couple weeks, won't we?
Yeah.
But the reality is that you know, we need to take advantage of this time that we have now. That's why, for example, in November and December, we do all of our tax planning. You know, people will come in, they'll talk about Roth conversions, for example, and they'll say, hey, it's January, I want to put, you know, I want to convert my IRA into Roth. And almost never will I allow them to do that in January, February, March. Because let's just say, for example, you're looking at your tax brackets and you want to be right at the top of the 22 or the 24% tax bracket, and you filled it up with all this Roth conversion income. But then you decide, hey, I'm going to go buy an RV with this money. You want to make sure you can look retroactively at what you've done during the year so that we don't make any mistakes to jump you into the 32% tax bracket or 37% tax bracket.
Sure.
It's about using all the information that we have at our fingertips to put into a plan. So that's why we try to wait till November and December, which, you know, we're just heading into Roth conversion tax planning season, you know, as we speak.
Perfect
Yeah.
timing. Stuart, let me ask you, for the people that were fortunate enough to receive one of the complimentary consultations, I wanted to ask you, who benefits the most from that? Like, who do you work well with? Who works well with you? Is there a specific type of client that you tend to attract the most?
Yeah, I think what people are just kind of surprised about in terms of our company the most is the attention to detail, right? So, you know, engineers, for example, we have obviously a huge Honeywell, you know, location here in Phoenix. And the engineers, which most financial advisors have a big difficulty with, we embrace wholeheartedly, because when they see our numbers, when they see the work behind what we do, we win them over most of the time, you know, because, you know, engineers tend to be do-it-yourselfers, right? They have this great portfolio. They pay attention to their own portfolio, and some people love doing that, right? But what they miss out is on the plan, how the other thing, the tax issues, you know, it's important to make sure that the whole estate is looked at properly. So from financial planning, estate planning, tax planning, we do the whole thing in-house, and it's really important to make sure that, you know, you take a look at it. But no, I think engineers are the most surprised because, you know, they want the most information they can.
Sure.
But quite honestly, it's the people that have had all this money. You know, kind of an interesting story. We had a client that had a small account with us, and when her husband died, I spent about 4 hours with her, kind of calling all the insurance companies, doing everything. Well, she went back to her brother who had his substantial wealth and said, hey, I was just, at my financial advisor's, place. And he's kind of thinking to himself, oh, financial advisor, you don't have very much money. What is it? And she realized that, or he realized that, we spent 4 hours with this lady. He's been with the same advisor at this big box firm for 20 years. He's never had a meeting with his advisor that was that in depth. And he's got millions of dollars.
Wow.
So what we do really well is we give access to people with good savings, but you don't have to have millions of dollars, right?
Okay.
If you have a few $100,000, we're a perfect fit. And the reality is that those people are now getting access to world-class planning that they only thought was available to the ultra wealthy. And we've just created a very efficient model for people to have high-end planning. And where we're really doing well out of our West Valley office, people in the West Valley tend to drive to Scottsdale for their, now we do have a Scottsdale office as well.
Okay.
But we make it world-class planning in the West Valley, and that's just really unheard of, to have this kind of complete plan available to you.
Yeah.
So no, we have a lot of clients, that come out of the different retirement communities in the West Valley, in Portobello, Grand, all of these places that have these people that have retired that have never, had access to real planning, are who we benefit the most.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you, Stewart, how important is it to have a second opinion? If someone in the viewing audience today perhaps has a retirement plan that they feel is a good fit for them, how important is it to have a second look?
It's huge.
Okay.
Because just remember, we've had an 11 years of phenomenal market. With all due respect, a blind chicken could pick good stocks over the last decade, right? Because the market has quadrupled since 2009. So that's not the question. The question isn't about how well it would do in an up market. What about when the market pulls back, right? We got a little taste of it during COVID, but because of the stimulus plans, we came right back. We're ahead of where we were. But what if we see 2000 or 2008 repeat themselves, and we see these 50% drops in the market? What will happen to yours? And are you comfortable with what will happen? That's why the complimentary consultations that we do with the portfolio analysis, we can tell you exactly what kind of risks you're taking, because a lot of people have been so, it's been a decade, so it's never going to happen again, right? It's been forever, so people forget about how they felt in 2008 or 2000, People don't want to have to go back to work again if they're retired, and sometimes they'll need to if they sustain those kind of losses. So I think it's important for people to know, what kind of risks am I taking, and am I comfortable with that? And if you are, perfect. But that's why our complimentary second opinion service will do exactly that. We'll give you a second opinion on your portfolio, let you know what the risks are, and if you're comfortable with it, leave it the way it is.
Well, Stewart, this is the perfect time for us to open up the phone lines again to the viewing audience. I'll give you a break from speaking. I'll go ahead and tell them what they can expect to receive. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are once again now open, and that number to call is 833-652-7829. Stewart has talked a little bit about doing maybe a portfolio review, maybe a stress test, if you will, just to make sure that you are currently in the right plan for you. Wherever you're at any stage of life, Stewart can make sure it's the right fit, and to make sure that when you retire comfortably and with peace of mind. Again, it's a complimentary consultation. The number to call is 833-652-7829. We only have a few spots left this week. Don't miss this opportunity. Again, the number is 833-652-7829. We'll be right back after this very short commercial break.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. And Stewart is the managing partner of Asset Preservation Tax and Retirement Services. Stewart, a great show. And I just love, again, I keep coming back and I say the same thing, but I love listening to all the advice and the information that you're giving the viewing audience. The exciting part of the show is right now, because as we were going to the commercial break and the phone lines were lighting up, we get a chance to really take a look at some of the viewer questions. And so I love that I have viewer questions. You don't know what they are.
Oh, no.
You have no
please.
idea. And honestly, I don't know what they are either. So we're in this together. So this is the first question that we have. Stewart, I really enjoy your show each week. I am 10 years away from retirement. I do not have a true retirement plan in place. What sort of steps should I be taking where I am right now, 10 years away?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to understand what is your current tax situation, right?
Okay.
So in our first meetings, we like to have people bring in their tax returns, if they choose, if they're comfortable with that, just so we can really get an understanding of what kind of tax they're paying. Because, right, a lot of people in their mind, oh, we're at the high tax bracket. They're really at the 12 or,
Okay.
the 22. And so it's important to make sure that we get an understanding of what their tax situation is.
Okay.
But right now, if you are in one of those lower brackets, it really does make sense to look at all of the options that your employer is offering. Here's an example. We'll have clients that come in from the show and they'll say, hey, you know what, we're putting into our 401k, but we really want to stop that and put it with you. And I'll say, no, I'm not going to match your contributions into your 401k, right? That's free money.
Right.
So our goal is to build the most stable and performance-oriented plan for our clients. And the reality is sometimes it's better for them not to have their money with us, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we use some of the biggest custodians, in America to handle the custodial relationship with our clients' money.
Okay.
But it's important to make sure that that you keep pushing, to the end, because a lot of people they don't know if they're putting away 4% into their 401ks, but just use the easy number of 5%. If you put away 5% of your money into your 401k now, it takes 20 years for that to equal 1 year of your income,
Wow.
right? So really, we do tell people that it's time to push now. The last 10 years, it's really important. And some people have done a great job, but others, have not done so well. We have clients that are that work for the federal prison system, and it's this really odd thing because it seems that all of them are putting away 16% of their money into their 401k system, where other people are just doing 4%. So you you really have to get a good understanding of where you are,
Okay.
and whether
Okay.
your contributions are beneficial, and are they going to get you to where you want.
Okay, thank you so much, Stewart. This is a great question too. It says, Stewart, I have a question for you. What are the best use of my assets in retirement? Can you help me decide? That's a great question.
Phenomenal question. And the interesting thing about that is it's important to have a diversification, not just of investments, but of tax qualifications of your money, right? So you can have after-tax money, which is like cash, investments that are in the market, et cetera. You can have IRAs, which are tax deferred, and then you have Roth, which are tax free.
Okay.
Now, they're all treated differently, but it's important to understand, if you're really, understanding the fact that it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep at the end of the day. It allows us to have choices of where to plant ourselves within the tax bracket. So let's just say that you're right on the edge of the 22% tax bracket. You don't want to go into the 24 because then it could start affecting your Medicare premiums, et cetera. Well, maybe we take a little bit out of the Roth or the non-qualified accounts, but you don't want to leave any threshold there also you want to push yourself right up to the maximum thresholds of these brackets just to be efficient, to make use of it.
Thank you so much, Stewart. That was a great answer. This is going to be a little more challenging, I think. It says, Stewart, what is the best time for me to take Social Security? My brother-in-law says I should start taking it now because it's going to go away in the future.
Now, Social Security planning is huge.
Okay.
And the reality is, the first thing I say is stop with the water cooler talk.
Yes.
Your friends are they're intending well, they want to help you, but the reality is this. Have a plan.
Yeah.
For many couples, they're going to get about $1.5 million of Social Security benefit over their lifetime. For a lot of people, that's more than their total net worth. If you don't plan out your Social Security payments, you're making a huge mistake. Just huge. You know, people
Sure.
say, hey, it's going broke, it's doing this. Listen, the reality is you have to make a plan for what we have in place now and what we expect in the short term. Social Security is not going anywhere. You know, once this political, season passes, then, things will be fine. But make an informed decision. There's no right or wrong. If you understand the implications of taking it at 62 versus 66 or 70, that's fine. These are adults that are making these decisions, and it's okay so long as they're informed decisions, so they understand the impact.
Sure, absolutely. So again, it's not one size fits all, just like retirement is not one size fits all.
Absolutely. No, everybody's situation's different.
Yeah.
Their life situation is different. And it's important to make sure that they can create a plan that helps them enjoy their retirement, not just worry about all this stuff all the time.
Stewart, we only have about 45 seconds left in the show today. Do you want to tell the viewing audience one more time what they can expect to receive by being one of your next callers?
Sure. Well, I think we've already hit the 10, but I'm more than happy to go over that. So for the next few callers here, if you call in, what we'll do is we'll do a complimentary portfolio analysis. There's no obligation, no charge. And part of that is also a Social Security analysis. So if you haven't filed for Social Security yet, we can tell you what the effects will be, whether you do it at 62, 65, 66, or 70, and we can give you a chart to show that.
Thank you so much, Stewart, for your time again this week. To the viewing audience at home, the number to call is 833-652-7829. We know you have a lot of questions about retirement. Stewart can make the answers very easy and clear for you. Thank you for watching. Be blessed, be safe. We'll see you next week.